Church hurt is real, and oftentimes people come into religious spaces and different places of worship, and what happens is they often leave harm. And I'm going to, in these next videos, talk about 10 ways that churches are able to reduce church hurt and religious trauma. So the first way that churches can reduce church hurt and religious trauma is, number one, churches have a tendency to focus on what people have on externally. See, this is a problem because oftentimes people come in different clothes, or they come in with different accessories, or they come in appearing different ways. And there's one thing that I've learned over the years is that you can't judge somebody by their appearance. As a matter of fact, oftentimes people use things to cover up what's going on inside. You see, some of us come in our nice suits to cover up some of the things that are going on behind closed doors. Some of us come in our long skirts and our hats, even though there are things that are behind the scenes that we don't want other people to see. And one of the things that we often do is that we focus on what's on the external, when actually we as church people need to be more in tune with what's going on inside. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I've experienced personally when it comes to this judgment, when it comes to how people dress and how they present themselves, is there was this time that I remember that I was talking to some homeless people. See, we were doing some ministry in the community, and there were some people that we just had a great conversation. And as we were talking to them, one of us decided to invite them to church. And I remember their hesitation that was on their face. I remember seeing them kind of like their countenance sink when we said that. And so I asked the question, hey, what's going on? Is there an issue? And one of the things that they said to me that day really stuck out to me. They told me that they would love to come to church, but they did not have anything to wear. See, one of the things that we don't understand is that when we put this pressure for people to appear a certain type of way, when we tell people that they have to dress a certain type of way or look a certain type of way when they come into our community, oftentimes that automatically alienates people that may not have the resources to buy clothes that are acceptable to us. They may not have the ability to find these clothes, or they might actually be coming in the best clothes that they have, but it still doesn't meet our standard. And so when we focus solely on dress and the way that people look, oftentimes we can be telling people that you are not welcome here. See, one of the greatest things that I've learned over the years also is the fact that not only do clothes not matter as much to God, but God also talks about how we as people are simply vain in our ways that we view other people. As a matter of fact, I remember the story of David that's found in 1 Samuel when he was being chosen to be king. And so one of the things that did happen was Samuel, who was the priest at the time, he went to visit Jesse, and he told Jesse that one of your sons would become king. So he walked down the line, and David's older brothers were all there, and they left David in the fields because they thought he was insignificant. And as Samuel passed, Samuel saw the first son, and he thought he had the stature. He looked like the current king, who was Saul. He had the handsomeness. He just looked like he was the part. But God said something to him. He said, look not on the countenance, because I have rejected him. For man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. And see, one of the things that we do is that we have a tendency to judge things before the appointed time. We have a tendency to judge people based on what we can see. We judge people based on what we experience through them. And what we don't really realize is that only God knows what's happening behind the scenes. See, there's somebody that may be coming to your church that thought about taking their life before they came to your church, and they barely were even able to make it into your door. And what happens if the first thing that they meet is a question about what they're wearing, or a look or a scowl on what they have on? Or maybe somebody has been battling through depression, and God has given them the energy to just make it out the bed that day, and to find their way into the car and to drive to church. But when they get there, they're met with your judgmental looks, met with your judgmental stares, and they're met with your judgment judgmental thoughts and words that really just plummets them into further depression. See, some people here may not have the ability. They paid all of their bills, but for their own personal appearance, they don't have enough money. So they're coming in with the best clothes that they possibly could have. And what happens when we continue to focus on the external, when we continue to focus on the outward appearance, but oftentimes we don't know what this person has gone through with the week. We don't know what struggle that they have conquered and overcome. We don't know the calling of God on their life, and we automatically just disqualify them or judge them because of what they have on. And that's very disruptive, because what I found is that some of the people that are the best dressed, some of the people that have the nicest clothes, some of the people that present and talk a certain way, those are usually the people that try to appear perfect, have the most skeletons in their closet. And so we need to stop using outward appearance as a judgment of the character of somebody's heart. I remember this story. I remember I was kind of reaching out to some of the youth and the young people, the young adults that used to be a part of the church, and they used to come, and I remember there was this one woman, I'll never forget, her name was Miss Deborah, and I remember she was dying, and she wanted me to really look after her son and reach out to her son. So I remember her reaching out to her son, and we had some great times. I brought him around some other guys. We enjoyed some time. And I remember one time he hadn't been coming to church, but then I remember I just invited him. I was like, hey man, do you want to come to church with me? And I remember there was a little hesitation once again. And I know he said he didn't really have anything to wear. And I was like, oh man, don't even worry. You know, just dress down. I'll dress down with you. Everything will be fine. See, that was me in my young mind, my young ignorant mind, where I felt like just somebody coming to church would be a great thing. I thought that just somebody coming to church that people haven't seen in a while would cause rejoicing in the streets, that people will rejoice like heaven does when somebody comes back into the fold. But what actually happened was, as I walked through those doors in a church that knew me and that I felt, was more loving than it actually was, or some of the people at least, I remember walking through and getting looks. See, I was an elder at the time, so it wasn't like people didn't know who I was, but when they saw that I was not dressed a certain type of way, when they saw that I did not look up to their standard, I remember getting some looks from some people that I still remember vividly to this day. And the thing about it is, if they knew me, if they had experienced me, if they knew my heart, and they could still look at me in such a way, because I did not meet their external standards, that I did not meet the standards of dress that they thought was appropriate, just imagine the person that nobody knows. Imagine the person that is just off of the street. Imagine what they get when they come into our doors. See, it's important for us as a church to really get deep down in our heads that this thing that we use, which is our eyes. Yes, God gave us eyes in order to analyze and to discern, but we have to understand that final judgment of people's character can only come from Christ. See, the thing is, a lot of us are missing out on the blessing because we have judged people prematurely. One of the things that happens is those same people were the answers to the prayer that we were asking God for. As a matter of fact, that music leader that you had been asking for is the person that you judged before time. You see, that person to work with the youth that would be energetic is the person that you judged and that you isolated from your church. See, the person that was supposed to reach out to the community and be great in evangelism was the person that you looked down upon for what they were wearing. And what I'm trying to say is, oftentimes we're praying for more laborers, we're praying for people to help, we're praying for people to come and join our folds, but because we have this toxic mindset, because we have this judgmental and condemnatory spirit that only comes from the enemy, the people that God is trying to send to build up our church, the people that God is trying to send to help us to grow the kingdom of God, are the same people that we're turning away with our looks and our judgmental demeanor. And so I just really encourage us today, as the people of God, if we want to reduce the church hurts that's happening within our walls, help us to be more prayerful. Ask God to really help us to be more loving and accepting, and help us to see through His lens and not the judgmental lenses that we see through. My name is Wale, and one of the things that I want to do is to make sure that I am helping churches in the areas of retention and reclamation through addressing the specific issue of church hurt. See, this is important because we're losing a lot of people that we baptized within the first year. They're out the back door. And one of the main reasons is because they've had a negative experience in our church. And so we want to make sure that as we grow God's kingdom, that we keep people in the fold. I just want to tell you that this video is sponsored by AmFin. AmFin is a company that will take care of all of your bookkeeping needs. I know sometimes keeping track of all the transactions, being a business owner, that can be hard. That can be something that really just can be overwhelming. And so I just want to let you know that AmFin Services is here to help you with all of your bookkeeping needs. So make sure that you reach out to them and they will take care of your accounting needs for your business. My name is Wale Ade, and once again, this is another edition of Religion and Politics Stop the Bleeding campaign. Let's address church hurt and heal together in a healthy way. God bless.